The mystique of isolated locations, particularly those that appear to be stuck in time, has always captivated me. Consider an OXXO on a lonely road where the sense of isolation and quiet is so strong that it permeates every nook and cranny. During my night shifts, it was the aura that pervaded the place, which initially appeared to be an average one, but quickly turned into a scene of terror and misery. Have you ever pondered what might happen if you were caught in a cycle that you were unable to break on an ORD-AR night? I want to tell you about this incident, which has left me permanently changed. It was just another night. Over the road, darkness had descended, and the OXXO's lights flickered feebly, as though they were also burdened by loneliness. My shift started at 11 o'clock at night, and while it initially seemed to go slowly, I quickly noticed that something odd was going on. There was something unnerving about the faces of the familiar customers as they came and went from the business. Their skin grew paler, and their eyes more sunken each time they came back. They purchased the identical items: a bag of chips, a bottle of water, and a pack of gum. They seemed to be caught in a never-ending cycle, and worse, they didn't appear to notice it during a brief period of interest. I made the decision to look at the security cameras. Even though the tapes showed patrons making their way to the door, they never did, and what I witnessed made my blood run cold. The OXXO seemed to have turned into a jail for them. When I discovered that the cash register's digital clock consistently displayed 3:33 a.m., the scenario grew even more bizarre. I kept seeing the same hour on the clock, glowing menacingly as the night drew on, regardless of how much time had gone. The buzzing sound coming from the refrigerators got louder, a sound that echoed like a spooky echo in my mind. The items on the shelf appeared to be moving on their own, a bottle of soda here, a bag of chips there. I tried to tell myself that it was all in my head because of the cumulative weariness, but I was unable to resist the mounting feeling of dread that overcame me one especially gloomy night. One last customer came into the store just before dawn. The thought of him walking toward the cash counter made me shiver. I froze when I looked up to serve him. I was the one who did it, or rather him. His smile was strange and his face was distorted, as though he were making fun of me in the mirror. In that moment, I realized the terrible reality. I had been dead since my first shift, and the OXXO was more than just a store. It was a limbo where nighttime patrons were caught in an endless loop. As I struggled to comprehend what was occurring, I was overcome with terror. I attempted to scream but was unable to do so. It seemed as though my humanity had disappeared along with my voice. With that lost and vacant expression in his eyes, I saw the customer go through the same routine again, purchasing the same goods. As daylight started to flood the room, I came to the realization that we were all prisoners here, destined to repeat this night indefinitely till daybreak. Through the OXXO's windows, I experienced a mixture of hope and despair. Maybe at dawn I could break free from this hellish cycle and free those trapped here with me. But when the light finally came on, something remarkable occurred. The OXXO started to fade before my eyes. The shelves collapsed and the products vanished one by one until there was nothing left but an empty lot in front of me. In that last instant, something on the ground caught my attention. An old yellowed newspaper that reported on a deadly robbery that had taken place in a convenience store decades prior. This realization struck me like a cold wave. Everything I had experienced had been a rerun of the terrible past that had ensnared so many lost souls within the OXXO. I felt as though I was being reborn after spending so much time in the dark when I woke up in the midst of a field with the sun beaming brightly overhead. I sat up and tried to recall how I had arrived, but everything felt hazy, as though I had been in a deep slumber and had just woken up. I glanced around, hoping to see a recognizable sign, but all I saw was solitude and silence. I made the decision to stroll down the street in search of some hint as to what had transpired. My mind was racing with questions as I went along. Was it all real? Was I indeed stuck in that OXXO? I had an odd mixture of relief and worry with every stride. With each step, I moved farther away from the place where I had spent so many frightful nights, but I also got closer to not knowing what the future held. I eventually came upon a tiny town along the side of the road where I made the decision to pause, take a break, and consider what had happened before going inside a cafe. As though I were a stranger, or maybe someone lost in my own world, I observed how interested looks were directed at me. While sipping my coffee, I tried to unwind and watch Lel's conversation and the 8L among themselves. But something kept bothering me. That nagging sense that I was being watched. That unnerving thought that maybe I wasn't as free as I thought. Even though I didn't think anyone would comprehend, I made the decision to tell the owner what had happened. As she listened carefully to my account, her look gradually changed from one of disbelief to one of intense concern. Her expression was one of horror mixed with compassion as she told me about the old tales of that Oxa, where many people had vanished. I felt a spark kindled by that revelation in Without a Trace, where it was stated that lost spirits still traveled in search of liberation. I knew that I couldn't just leave my past behind. I had to go back to the Oxo, face my fears, and free those who were stuck with me. So, armed with resolve and an ardent desire to end this never-ending cycle, I decided to set out again on that path toward the unknown. When I finally arrived at the location, it was just an empty lot covered in weeds. But I knew deep down that there was something more profound there, something hidden beneath its surface. So I dug with my hands, feeling each grain of dirt fall between my fingers, until I found something hard and cold. When the old rust-covered metal box was opened, it revealed old letters, photos, and lost memories of the people who were stuck in Oxo's limbo. As I looked over those items, I realized that each one symbolized a life lost. Each recollection included bits and pieces of shortened stories, so I made the decision to pay tribute to them by telling their stories to anyone who might come across them, talking about them, and giving them a voice. Even after they had departed, thus began writing about those lost souls, creating narratives to share with others, remembering their lives, their hopes, their dreams. With each story told, felt how little by little those souls began to free themselves. Their floating energy seemed to dissipate, filling air with peace. Finally understood that by giving them voice was breaking eternal cycle, allowing them find rest after so much suffering today. Want to share this story with you because firmly believe there are hidden lessons. Even in darkest tales, sometimes we find ourselves trapped in repetitive cycles without realizing we are those who must break invisible chains. If you ever feel lost or caught in your own daily life, remember this story and always seek light at end tunnel. The next story. Have you ever pondered what may occur if the ghosts of people who have passed away came back to speak their deepest secrets to you on the final night of the year? In a small village, the whispers of individuals who have passed away during the year are reported to be carried by the wind every year at midnight on December 31st. Many people have avoided celebrating on New Year's Eve because of this oral tradition. But a group of friends who are curious and want to try new things decide to throw a party in an ancient mansion that is said to be filled with enigmatic and depressing tales. Unaware that they will soon be ensnared in a tornado of horrifying disclosures, they get ready for a night of fun and laughing, despite the town's elders' cautions and the suspicious looks from their neighbors. The ceremony will take place at an old estate that has been deserted for many years. The air smells of dampness and neglect, and the walls are coated in cobwebs and dust. The pals are excited despite its unsettling appearance. Daniel, the group leader, and Anna, the skeptic who constantly seeks a rational explanation, are among them, as they decorate and fill the house with bright lights and upbeat music. Laura, who has a particular interest in the paranormal, and Carlos, the joker who can't help but frighten his pals, can't help but tell stories about the place's mythology. As the evening wears on and laughter reverberates through the old walls, each story seems to heighten the joyous yet eerie ambiance. With every drink they raise, something starts to shift in the atmosphere. When they decide to get some fresh air in the yard, the odd feeling begins to permeate the house. They start to hear whispers in the wind, which they initially believe to be the result of drinking or even a bad joke among themselves. However, they quickly discover that the murmurs are their names being repeated. The joyous mood gradually gives way to one of anxiety and uneasiness. One by one, they start to feel transient. They see visions of old faces that have faded over time, bringing to light regrets and secrets they would have rather forgotten. The first to be impacted is Daniel, who sees the ghostly form of his grandfather, who died a year ago, as he gazes out into the garden illuminated by sparkling lights. He can sense his presence because the image is so clear. His grandfather gives him a sorrowful smile while muttering something he doesn't quite comprehend. Daniel has a knot in his stomach because he knows he needs to remember something crucial, but is also having trouble understanding it. When Anna sees her little sister, who passed away tragically in an accident, she starts to feel pressure in her chest. The image was unpleasant 3 years ago. Carlos tries to keep things humorous by making jokes about what they are seeing, but his laughter wanes when he encounters a boyhood friend whom he never forgives for betraying him years ago. Her sister seems to be caught in an endless cycle of grief and bitterness. Amidst the darkness, the boy's face emerges with a regretful expression. Carlos's heart races as memories come flooding back. He knows that in order to shed the weight he bears, he must face that past. From a shadowy part of the yard, Laura keeps an eye on everything. When she sees her mother, who died 5 years ago, her fascination with the paranormal now turns into sheer terror. Her mother appears dissatisfied and depressed rather than offering her the consolation she had hoped for. Laura can't stop crying because she knows she never had the chance to express her love for her before losing her with every tension-filled personal disclosure. Among them, the time rapidly draws near midnight, and the atmosphere is heavy with suppressed feelings. They know they can't go away, as though a mystical force had chosen to keep them imprisoned until they confront their inner demons. The doors are locked. The wind howls fiercely at midnight, and whispers become shrill screams that reverberate through the night. The home appears to come to life as the shadows encircle them. The pals look at each other fearfully. They realize they have to face realities they have been avoiding. An uncomfortable dilemma emerges amid this emotional turmoil. Will they attempt to escape these horrifying facts, or are they prepared to embrace their past? When they realize they cannot get out, the pressure increases. They are emotionally and physically imprisoned. Each person is drawn into repeating significant events from their past, such as a broken friendship, a lost love, or unmet commitments. The atmosphere turns suffocating, and it feels like there are unseen eyes judging them from every corner of the home. Daniel chooses to speak up at that crucial point and share his deepest fear, that he left someone he truly loved without acknowledging their significance before they were lost forever. The group's confessions follow this act of bravery. Each one reveals their darkest secrets, while the wind outside appears to temporarily subside as they let go of their emotional loads. They feel as though a burden has been lifted from their hearts. At last, they are prepared to let go of the things that have plagued them for so long. Carlos talks about how he has always harbored animosity toward his betraying friend, but now realizes that doing so has just made his life worse. Anna discusses how her life has been impacted by her guilt at not being there to defend her sister. Laura comes to the realization that she wishes she had informed her mother how much she meant to her before she went, and that she misses her a lot. They watch as whispers turn into consoling words and cries gradually fade with each admission they share. They learn a priceless lesson about acceptance and forgiveness from the incident. They feel as though a burden has been lifted from their hearts with every disclosure made, and they are at last prepared to let go of the things that have plagued them for so long. They realize that they had not only survived this horrific night as friends, but also as rejuvenated human beings when the first rays of morning peek through the old house's dusty windows. They can feel the cool breeze brushing over their faces as soon as they step outside. When they look back at the house where it all began, even though it appears serene and unthreatening in the morning light, they know it will always hold untold stories and forgotten secrets. It's as though the wind itself is thanking them for listening to those final whispers of the year. This terrifying yet transforming experience comes to an end as dawn nervous laughter fills the air. But there are also deep glances filled with mutual understanding. They have faced their deepest fears and found solace in their human connections. Now realizing that even though losing someone hurts, there is always room for healing if one has the courage to confront what is inevitable. Please remember to face your fears and seek redemption before it's too late if you ever find yourself in a similar situation where ghosts from the past come back to haunt you. If you like this story or have experienced anything similar, please leave a like and comment below. Your support is crucial to us continuing to create stories like this. So please remember to subscribe to our channel for more terrifying tales. See you in our upcoming story, where we'll delve into more secrets concealed in the shadows.